Hi, and welcome to the OT is In, the podcast where we merge the worlds of education and occupational therapy to empower families like yours. I'm Sarah Collins, your host, an occupational therapist and a homeschooling parent. I've experienced occupational therapy by supporting families for over 15 years, but also through seeking out support of my own children, so I'm right here in the trenches with you. Though there is not one way to educate your child, there is a lot to consider when individualizing an education. And the goal of this podcast is to explain some of the why behind what an occupational therapist is thinking so you can apply it to your own family. Especially with my three favorite topics: executive functioning, handwriting, and sensory processing. Each episode will be packed with practical tips, expert interviews, and real-life stories aimed at helping you to create a supportive learning environment for your child. So, grab your headphones and get ready to dive in of the collision of education and occupational therapy. I'm Sarah Collins from Homeschool OT, and I'm thrilled to have you with me on this journey of discovery. Welcome back to the OT is In. In this episode, I chat with Kelly Edwards, a homeschool parent and creator of the 90-minute school day framework. This framework formed because of Kelly's own journey, which evolved from recreating a traditional classroom at home to gradually letting go of these rigid expectations. Kelly opens up about navigating the unique needs of her neurodivergent children, the process of deschooling, and the internal work necessary to truly embrace this homeschooling freedom. You'll also hear practical strategies for self-care as a homeschooling parent, balancing sibling relationships, and what a day in the life looks like using Kelly's 90-minute school day approach. So whether you're brand new to homeschooling or looking for reassurance and inspiration, this episode is full of honesty, encouragement, and actionable advice. Let's jump in. Hey, and welcome back to the OT is In. My name is Sarah Collins, and today I have with me Kelly Edwards. And it's actually, guys, kind of a dream because when I first started homeschooling way back in the day, was listening to podcasts and things like that. Kelly, you were the one of them that I was like, wait, 90 minutes? What on earth? And so I got, we've been following each other on social media for years and years, but this is the first time to actually talk face to face, and I'm really happy and honored that you're here.
I'm so honored and thrilled to be here, and I'm so glad that we're getting to have this conversation. It's going to be an awesome one.
I think so too. Well, can you first start just how and why did you start homeschooling, and kind of what is your homeschool story?
Sure. I started homeschooling about, this is our 11th year, and I never planned first. Let me start off with just telling you that I never planned to homeschool. I
Same.
remember, I remember wanting to be homeschooled. My best friend growing up was homeschooled, and I was just super jealous of the fact that she had all this freedom. And I was like, Mom, will you homeschool me? My mom was like, no, honey.
Not a
Like,
chance.
you and I are not, no, you go have fun at school. But so I was aware of homeschooling, but I was going to do the same thing that, I had done, and I've gone through the school system. But when our oldest was in school, so we are parents through foster and adoption here in West Virginia. And so our oldest at the time, we knew we were adopting her, but she was still our foster child, and she was in the school system. She went through kindergarten and first grade. And we realized with her particular presentation, the school system itself was not able to meet all of her needs.
Mhm.
She was getting her academic needs met just fine. She's an excellent student, but her social emotional needs, and then also needing to kind of bond as a family and build some
Right.
attachment, we needed some more time as well. And so we decided, okay, we're going to homeschool. So we did all the things, right? We went to all the conferences, we listened to all the podcasts, I read all the books, I talked to all my friends that I possibly knew or a friend of a friend who homeschooled, interviewed them, looked at their curriculum, and I did all my homework. And that is kind of how our homeschool journey started. I felt like I need framework to be able
Mhm.
to do this because this isn't something that I was planning on. And so I selected a boxed curriculum. I added a few things on top of that because that's what good moms do. And
Keep adding. Give
yeah,
us more.
when in doubt, like language. I mean, this child, she was in second grade. She had and then I also was like, we need to be busy from nine
Yeah.
to three because that's what school does. And that's obviously what children need. And so I had a grade book, we had a desk, we did the Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, it was just, I
I
recreated
love that.
school at home. The only thing I
We did
didn't
the
do,
Pledge of Allegiance too at the beginning.
yeah, yeah, now I need a refresher on the Pledge of Allegiance. Not really, but and so the only thing I didn't do is like have a school uniform where she and I had matching clothes.
Yeah,
And had someone suggested that to me, maybe I would have tried it. I
you
don't
would
know.
have done it. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So that's kind of how we started. And as things happen, you kind of start realizing, okay, we don't need to do this. This is too much. This maybe isn't developmentally appropriate. And so you're dropping things, but as you're dropping, you're like, but is this the right thing to do? Who do I ask? And then
Yeah.
you ask people, right? So depending on who you're asking and how these people are homeschooling, if you're asking other homeschoolers, you can get wildly different answers. And so you just feel kind of lost because you're like, I just want someone to be like really definitive.
Right.
And also that's working maybe for this mom, but we tried it. It's consistently not working for us. So I had to continue to give myself permission to drop things. Like spelling was one of the, we were doing spelling tests on Friday that first year. My eldest
Love
is like
this so much.
fantastic speller. Like she always is getting hundreds. And I was like, and I was a terrible speller because a lot of this that we're dealing with is like, we're trying to overcome our own school trauma.
Yeah.
We're trying to overcome and make sure that we're doing the things that we ourselves needed. Like, oh, I was a terrible speller, so the spelling test makes sense to me. But anyway, she's a fantastic speller and she didn't need it. She was always getting hundreds. And I was like, oh, I'm wearing both of us out with this. Like, we
Yeah.
can let this go. That was one of the first things I let go. And then I'll just speed things up. So a myriad of things happen like they do. And one of my favorite quotes from Michaela Richards, inside her book, she talks about resistance is the roadmap. And like
Huh.
those are words to live by because where there's resistance, so I had my resistance is going to be different than someone else's resistance, or maybe someone else is like, ooh, that's spelling totally. But that resistance is the roadmap. So one of the things that was creating a lot of resistance in our homeschool in the early days were we were loving the read alouds. We were loving nature studies. We were loving being outside. We were loving being able to like operate our own schedule. But what we weren't loving was like grammar and
Yeah.
sentence structure and how to write a paragraph and how to do math this exact way, et cetera, et cetera. And so we were getting into some embroiled, disconnecting moments by me trying to carry my good mommy card and her resisting.
Right.
And she wasn't resisting to just be a pill. She was resisting because of something else. And through that process of, and as parents, we naturally do this, right? We recognize that there's resistance, so we start looking for answers. And one of the things that I turned to early on was behavior is communication.
Hmm.
So something is going on. What's going on underneath this? And we slowly started a process that I now know is called deschooling, but at the time I didn't know, where I was just dropping what wasn't working, picking up what was, kind of running my own analysis and moving forward with more intuition and giving myself permission to deviate from anyone else's homeschool that I knew at the time,
I
which
love
felt
that.
really
Yep.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's kind of how we started in a long way.
Yeah, I think that's as you're defining your own homeschool, I think we oftentimes feel so comfortable knowing that we're doing the same thing as somebody else. And like if it's working for them, it's going to work for us too. But really,
Mhm.
there's no two homeschools that are alike, and there's not one right way to do this. So that freedom that comes along with that is also oftentimes scary of like, wait, I can make my own choices in this, and no one's going to tell me I'm doing it right. No one also is going to tell me I'm doing it wrong, but that can be really, really scary. What have the, hardest aspects of homeschooling been for you?
Once I got rid of all of the judgment I had inside my own
Yeah.
self, like you just said, like no one's telling me I'm doing it wrong. That's right. No one is. It's all in
Mhm.
my head and like questions people ask. And when they might just be curious, but I'm perceiving it as like an attack, right? Or
Well, my
sometimes it
husband
is.
always says, he's like, you can ask questions, but questioning is totally different. And
Yes.
oftentimes we perceive questions as questioning, and
Yes.
whether or not they mean to be.
Or we're just like, we freeze because like maybe our kid has just gotten quizzed on something that you haven't covered. That's going to happen. Like even if they were in school, someone could ask them a question that they haven't learned yet. And or that you have the kid that's been in school and they come and they've got a skill and then you and your kid are like, we don't
Yeah,
know that.
I didn't
But
do that yet. I must be behind. Yeah.
But that could have been a kid from maybe a private school. And if your kid was in public school, that still could happen. And so
Yep.
I think we are so overly sensitive as homeschoolers that we have to like acknowledge that and understand that that's going to always continue to happen. So you have to kind of get to that in your own place. And that's a lot of self-work. So kind of returning to your question about like the hardest thing for me, doing that internal work, like
Mhm.
really confronting my own limiting beliefs, really confronting the way that I was planning to parent, I was planning to homeschool versus the homeschool that I have, the kids that I have, the parent
Right.
that I am, and grieving the lapse in expectations. All of my kids are neurodivergent, so they present very difficult at times, and
Mhm.
that's not them being difficult. That's just the difference that they have in a learning environment, a social communication environment, just like in their nervous system. And so I've taken a huge departure from who I was when I started parenting,
Yeah.
huge departure from who I was when I started homeschooling. And that has been one of the hardest parts, but that's always also been the best part. And then the hardest part of
Yes.
homeschooling for me is really just like the emotional load that we have to carry and navigate each day as
Mhm.
parents. It's not the academics, like that takes care of itself. Like if
I
my kids are
agree. Hmm.
regulated, they're good to go. It's managing sibling fights, it's managing my own interpersonal relationship with a difficult child, or they might
Yeah.
be saying it's hard for me to manage with my difficult mother. And I'm right there with you. Like I hear myself sometimes, I'm like, oh no,
I know
where's
what just came out of my mouth,
who
right?
is she? Who let her in here?
I
And so, I'll like out myself like, okay, I need a moment because this is not okay. I'm the momster, I call myself the
yeah.
momster and you make it playful, but yeah, that's the hardest part is just being with your kids all day. And that I was one of those parents that like when we first started, I was like, oh my gosh, I love it when I'm not with my kids. And I still have
Yeah.
those moments. It's wonderful to be without your kids in certain environments, but now I love being with my kids. We have grown so close and we have so much extra time together. Everybody's always talking about those 18 summers. Well, that's when kids are in the classroom. I'm with my
Yeah.
kids all the time. Like
Hmm.
it's not just summers, it's 18 years that
Yeah.
we have to spend together.
Yeah. We actually talk a lot in our house about how we move as a pack a lot of times,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. Like my kids are all athletes and going to their sports and, being spectators and whatever, as often as we can, we're all going. And there
Mhm.
are some families, and I'm not saying that this is wrong, but there are some families that I've never met their other children, and we're all going to these events together. And sometimes that's really hard to like get all these logistics in here where we're going in one spot and whatever. But their relationships, my daughter being 16, my youngest son being 9, like there's a big age gap there. But I
Mhm.
just watched them drive away the other day together and I was like, it's awesome. Like they're building their own relationship together. Now, simultaneously, I would also say exactly what you were talking about sometimes it's really hard for us to be around
Mhm.
people. I mean, even not just our kids, but to be around people all day, every day, and to manage our own needs. So, how have you kind of worked through that for yourself, where you're able to juggle your kids and your interpersonal relationships with them and make sure that you are doing the best for yourself?
That's a great question. So it's kind of it's multifaceted. It would
Hmm.
how I would take how I'm going to answer that. First and foremost, I had to realize so I have PTSD from parenting.
Okay.
And so part of my recovery and continuing, because it's just a process, is to make sure that I've created space for myself
Okay.
each and every day. It might be 5 minutes, it might be 2 hours. It depends on the day, right? And I just have to
Hmm.
know that I have my strategies for getting through the day. My kids know that I need this time. And I'm in a different season now with my youngest 7 and my oldest is 17 than I was when we first started homeschooling 11 years ago, right? So
Right.
it evolves and changes, but that has not changed. Like I know what I need, and those things need to happen on a regular basis. It may not happen every day, but it's a regular repetition and a rhythm that's going on. I also have observed and know what my kids need. All of my kids have different needs. I
Yeah.
don't treat my kids the same and they know it. Like I'm not the equality police here. I'm going to treat you as an autonomous human being and we're going to do what's best for the nervous systems that have shown up today, this morning,
I
this afternoon.
love this so much. I am not the equality police. That is so true.
Yeah, because that's what the good parenting model, and I'm using
Yeah.
quotes for those who are listening later, like the good moms always treat everybody fair, and we're the fair police, and we're going to do everything equal, and that's not how
Hmm.
life works. No, I'm treating this situation the same. My love for each one of you is the same. I love you as my child the same as my other child. However, right now this child is suffering, and
Hmm.
I'm going to spend more time and attention with this child, and I'm going to acknowledge with you that sucks. And it's
Yeah.
not okay. And it's not okay. And I would like it to be fair, but
Hmm.
it's not. And so
Yeah.
we're just going to have to work with this. And when you're suffering, I'm with you. And sometimes I'm suffering. Please, somebody come be with me.
I know. I love how you're talking some about self-care, but you're not
Mhm.
talking about it in the way that, well, our society oftentimes will equate self-care with consumerism and like,
Mhm.
being
Yeah.
outside and we have to get our nails done and whatever. And I do have some podcasts on rest. I'll make sure that those are linked in the show notes and some of the research on rest. But the way that you're mentioning this of like sometimes it's 5 minutes, tell me more
Mhm.
about that. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, we actually, inside my community, we just went through like a full resourcing, everybody sharing their best hacks as homeschooling parents. Like when you
Love
don't have
that.
time and people are melting down and you have to get yourself regulated before you can respond to that meltdown, right? Like
Hmm.
if I'm melting down and they're melting down, like I got to
Yeah.
get straight. I'm the adult. What can
Hmm.
I do? So like just breath work is really powerful, first and foremost. If I can get to a sink and wash my hands in cold or hot water. I know people splash their faces, like that seems
Yeah.
really aggressive to me. Like that, no, no,
Like I've
no.
already put on my makeup today and I don't do that every day, so I'm not gonna
I'm
splash my face.
I'm not someone who washes their face at night. My
Yeah.
homeschooled friend growing up, her mom liberated me from that. She would never wash her face and like would wake up in the middle of the
That's
night
so
with like
funny.
blurry faces and like it's kind of it's and then maybe it's a sensory thing for me like but like water on my face after I've gotten tired is just not something I do, right?
Yeah.
I just drop that. I'm okay with that.
Good.
So like washing your hands, taking a breath. I'll tell my kids I need a timeout. Can I just be in this room by myself? And sometimes they
Hmm.
can't accommodate that because they're having such a trouble. So as long
Hmm.
as they're safe, I will walk away from them. And
Yeah.
sometimes that it's like Dan Siegel's move it or lose it. So if I'm walking and they're like hunting me down, like we're both moving and that
Yeah.
helps regulate. If
Boom.
I'm super yeah, if I'm super triggered and maybe I have like a therapy call or something, I might need to walk through it as I'm talking through a problem I'm having, and I just need to be mobile while it's
Yeah.
happening. Things like that. So just how can I meet the need that I have? And if you're descending to fight or flight, as you know, we need to move, right?
Yeah.
That's our bodies are wanting that. So if we're sitting still, we're putting more hits on our nervous system. So if you're feeling like frustrated with your child, like find a way to move. Maybe you can't walk away. You got a little person you got to keep safe, but you can jump up and down. You can do silly moves. We do pillow fights in my family where I'll just
Yes.
like have Pat Benatar on the, I'll be like, hit me with your best shot, Alexa,
I
that's
love that.
and everybody, they know what that means and they go grab pillows. All of a sudden the meltdown is over because we're going to mash it out with a pillow in people's
Oh,
face.
that's so great. That is so great. I think that you are doing such a beautiful job, even in this conversation, of modeling that for your children, right? There are so many parents that are like, well, if I'm taking this me time away, then I'm taking away from my kids.
Yeah.
And in reality, no, what you're doing is advocating for yourself and teaching your kids to do that same thing. And sometimes, yes, that does mean I need some space away, but you've also just given some amazing examples of like, no, this is how we're going to do this together. We're going to have our own
Mhm.
pillow fight in here. My
Yeah.
son and I would continuously do burpees when he was younger because that was
Okay.
like his jam, right? Now, probably not the best. Well, actually, a really good thing for me, but I'm not nearly as athletic as him. So it would then we would just start laughing because I'd like flop on the floor. Like, come on, I can't
Yeah.
keep up with you. But
That's a great accommodation. Anything you can
Mhm.
do where they're better at it than you, all of a sudden flips the tables, right? They're
Yeah,
over you, and that feels good. It's funny, it's playful. Good for you for the burpees. I would be like, no, that's
no,
like water. No, no. Yeah, but there's so much we can do, and a lot of these, I don't know how you are, but a lot of these came to me out of desperation, desperate
yeah,
moments where I couldn't leave, but like and a lot of that is verbal too. I'll be like, I'm having a really hard time right now.
yeah.
I'm about to lose my patience. Can somebody just give me quiet? And they can't right then, but if you pause, like a lot of
Mhm.
times, especially with our neurodivergent kiddos, that pause gives them enough time to like process what you just said.
Yes,
And then they can give it to you if you just kind of sit there, like put your hands over your ears. Like they're not trying to like everybody's having a hard time. This is
yeah,
why homeschooling is challenging. It's not the academics, it's figuring out how to work through this. But when you're doing this, then all of a sudden, hopefully, at the end of their time in my family, they know more about how to navigate, they know more about themselves. They've got better tools to integrate into society. They've done this study, like 85% of successful people, it's about their social emotional skills and interpersonal
Yeah.
skills more so than it is about what they know. And so that's my priority for my own survival in my home. And that's my priority in my homeschool because if kids are regulated and feel safe, they learn. That's
Hmm.
what play is,
Yeah.
And so we just need to work on that. And that's a really important skill that takes a lot of practice and repetitions to develop. So I have my carved out time and practices each and every day. They might be small, they might be large. And then I have the 90-minute school day came from me working and also making sure that I stay present in their lives because sometimes they can be so self-directed and my kids are great about finding things to do all day that we don't have these connection pieces. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I was like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm like present with them. And me being super type A and being schooled and coming from a schoolish background,
Yeah.
I needed a framework for myself to build a rhythm with my kids. And so it's just like 3 20-minute segments and 3 10-minute segments that I can keep in my head that I can just look for throughout the day. Like, okay, this is our 10 minutes of writing that happened here, and this is our 10 minutes of reading, this is our 10 minutes of math. And it doesn't happen every day. Again, it's just like kind of a rhythm, a framework. We have days that I don't do this. A lot of times it's intuitive now, so I don't do it half as much as I did 5 or 6 years ago.
Hey listeners, we're going to take a quick break from our chat, but I have something super special to share with you. If you've been loving the stories and strategies that we talk about each week, you're going to want to check out our brand new book, co-authored by me and Jackie Adrian, called A Chameleon Tale, A Colorful Sensory Story. It's the perfect resource for anyone navigating the beautiful and sometimes challenging world of sensory needs and neurodiversity with their kiddos. Our book follows Sally and Seth, two adorable chameleons on their journey to the Chameleon Cafe, highlighting how every family member's sensory experience can be unique. Not only is it gorgeously illustrated by Jackie, seriously, these chameleons are so cute. But it's also designed as a meaningful conversation tool that you can use with your child to help them recognize and express what's going on inside their bodies. Imagine having a story that you can read together where your child can say, "Hey, I feel like Seth today. I need a," and then list one of the compensation strategies that Seth uses. And for parents, it's a way to give your children a language to talk about their feelings and their bodies. Plus, you'll find ideas for regulation strategies to try together. The book is available for order right now. Yes, right now. You can find A Chameleon Tale on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can request it at your favorite local bookstore or find it and its free book guide at homeschoolot.com/a-chameleon-tale. So support two mama authors, grow your family's emotional toolbox, and get a beautiful keepsake for your bookshelf. Order today and review it, and let's keep changing lives, one story at a time. Now, back to the episode. Can you dive in a little bit more of what that actually looks like on your day-to-day life?
Yeah, so it can look like I'll take yesterday. So yesterday in my house, let me first frame out the 90-minute school day framework. So this can be used depending on where you are in your journey. Like if planning ahead and sitting down with your kids and it looks more like school works for you and it works for your kids and you guys are remaining connected, please do that. That works for you. If
Right.
that doesn't work for you, then you can just live your best life alongside your kids and you can look back over your day and you can pull out these sections. So what they are simply is we have three, and these are like soft targets, but just
Mm-hmm.
because everybody likes benchmarks, there are three content areas. Content is how we learn. It layers learning on, right? So you learn little things when you're little, and then something about like the life cycle of a bee or a monarch butterfly. You learn really basic when you're little, but when you're a
Mm-hmm.
teenager, you get into like the migration of like monarchs. It goes deeper, right? Because it's
Right.
layered
You're going to
learning.
dive in. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how we just learn stuff, and we're learning the minute we arrive here on this earth and we are building layers of knowledge. So content, that's content. And then you have skill work, which is reading, writing, and math. Reading,
Mm-hmm.
writing, and math is how you can teach yourself. So these are skills that we want our kids to learn at some point in their time with us. That's kind of how the 90-minute work. 10 minutes for skill work, 20 minutes for content areas. The content areas are super easy. You find them in everybody's family life, whether you homeschool or you are a traditional schooler. A lot of families read to their kids, right?
Yeah.
So reading aloud is a 20-minute pathway. Try to squeeze it in a couple times a week in your house, 5 minutes, 20 minutes. Morning time. This is just building family culture. You're building family values. Anytime you're hanging out as a family, there's going to be things that come up that build character. You can make this more formal in different ways where you're the adult leading the learning, but that's basically what it is. And then the third way is just activities. So activities is engaging, like engaging in burpees, engaging in a pillow fight, engaging in something that they're curious. Like maybe they want to paint a paint by number and then you join them
Yeah.
in that. It's just like actually being present for a short period of time to give them that nourished attention and leadership. That's what the content areas are. And then reading, writing, and math is just being able to sit down and practice it, whether it's 1 minute or 10 minutes. That's all you need to build mastery in those areas over time with your kids.
As you're kind of going through this, do you at the end of the day do this evaluation every day, or are you now at the point where you're able to trust that these things are happening
Yeah, I don't go wandering through my day with the 90-minute
with a
school
list?
day. Yeah, in my head, but I did for years because it
Yeah.
was very helpful for me to be able to do this, to be able to go, okay, I'm doing enough. And when I first started, I was still like trying to find ways to engage my children through like strewing lessons that they were
Right.
interested in. And we still do that from time to time. So it's just kind of like where you are in your journey. And that method has been able to work in my head in a way that I know that I'm okay, I'm doing enough, and I can just analyze it front ways and back ways. And so it grows with you.
I
Does that make
love that
sense?
you're talking about your own lifelong learning journey, right? Like
Mhm.
how you're like, I came up with this framework and you needed something more structured at the beginning. And then now that you've used it so many times, you're able to just keep it in your brain. And isn't that so much of what we're trying to do with our
Mhm.
children as well? We are, it's
Mhm.
kind of like when you were saying you front load something, like you're
Mhm.
learning about the butterflies or whatever. And then as time goes on, you don't need to get those definitions, but instead you're diving deeper into it. So you
Yeah.
don't necessarily need to get this definition every day of like, what were the fine motor skills? What were the gross motor skills? But you're able to dive deeper with your kids and look at who they are as people, what the
Mhm.
skills are that they currently have, what they're using in an activity. I think this is so fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I think it's great. It was what I needed to scaffold myself through this journey so I could have the confidence to be the calm presence of leadership. Like all our job is as homeschooling parents is to create an environment that starts with felt safety in our nervous system first. And
Hmm.
then the physical environment around us and the interpersonal environment and protecting time for kids to learn on their own. Like this morning, my daughter was hanging out with her friend down the street and they were like researching with Alexa dragon names and wolf names. Why, I don't know. But they were having some kind of conversation. They had notebooks out. I don't know if they were drawing, if they were writing, they were scripting. But that's storytelling, right? That's a rich
Yeah,
language arts program that they're highly invested in. And I just noticed it in passing. And so I pegged it because it's like this dragon thing with her is so like
yeah.
continuing. And this is an entry point. So when I'm selecting books that I want to offer her to read together, like a lot of times they have a dragon theme to them, but we have to
Hmm.
be careful not to like overdo their interests with like schooliness. Like we're almost like
Yeah.
making their interest a job.
So, what would you say to the parents, that are really like, I need more of a day-to-day structured box curriculum type thing?
Yeah, if you feel like you need it, then
Hmm.
buy it. And before you buy, go to the library because a lot of them have,
Yeah.
depending on how many homeschoolers you have in your area, you may have several curriculums already in your library. So if you can spare yourself the cash while you kind of go through this exercise, get the curriculum. The curriculum, though, I like to advise my clients, you're buying this for you.
Hmm.
You feel like you need this is for you. And then when you notice that resistance, have a conversation with them. The resistance is a pattern. Like if they
Hmm.
have a resistant day, but they love it every other day, then great, that's working for both of
Right.
you. But if you have a pattern of resistance, then like have the conversation with your child. Even young children can advocate for themselves and use your powers of observation. Like, what is it about this? And then check your own self because a lot of the times it's your energy. So if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling like you're not enough, if you really need to get whatever it is done, and especially like I see this a lot with younger homeschooling families, is they have a curriculum and Maybe it's a 4-day curriculum. All of us like that, right? We would rather do the 4-day because we're homeschoolers and we don't have to go for 5 days
We
in a
don't
row.
have
This
to do
sounds
it, right?
amazing. But then we don't get the curriculum's boxes checked in those 4 days because our life is happening. And
Yeah.
so we use, and I did this my first year too. We use Fridays to catch up or whatever the spare day is.
Yeah.
And what you do when you do that, when you're like catching up, is you are devaluing learning to your child because now it's just something to check off so we can live our lives.
Amazing. What a
Right.
switch in your mindset. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, Kelly, I feel like that you've given us so much to think about, how to almost deschool, well, not almost, but to deschool and
Mhm.
what that means to our own brains and how we can connect with our kids. So those who are getting started, like this is their brand new, they're like, yep, this is the decision that I'm going to make. And I love the go check the library first, really
Mhm.
invest into that. But it's their like first day of homeschooling, right?
Mhm.
What are some thoughts of like, all right, here we go, get started. Don't do what I did, or don't
Mhm.
don't make my mistake. What would that one mistake be that you're like, don't do it?
Yeah, you got to check your expectations at the door.
Love it.
Like,
Yep.
you got to check them. The kids, something is going to happen every day in your homeschool that is wildly out of line in the first 5 or 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If you get through your first hour as planned, good for you. That may
Love
never
it.
happen again. So just know that like the best laid plans, you need to be able to be flexible. And so have your plan. That plan is for you. That helps
Mhm.
you feel like you've got this. But know that there's going to be like, okay, I got to pivot. And you're
Mhm.
pivoting all the time. And then start noticing what your kids are doing. Like when you take a breath and you're just like, mommy needs a break, I'm going to be right back. And you come back and the craft that you had set up has now turned into process art and they're not doing it the right way. And they were supposed to make a caterpillar and now it's just like stacks of glue. Sit there and watch them and be like, you know what? They are learning what they need to
Yeah.
learn today. And I'm doing a great job. Pour a cup of hot coffee and watch those kids push glue and paper all day long.
Oh, it totally made me think. I got all this candy at one point because we were learning about the animal cell, and I like got all, and I was like, "This is going to be the vacuole, and this is going to be the mitochondria." And my son just looked at me and he put some in his mouth. He was like, "I ate your mitochondria,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "But I wanted that." Like it was so my like vision of what it was going to look like, and it was not.
He was teaching you. He was
I
checking
know.
your energy, right? Like you were
I
super
know.
intense and really into this, and he's like,
I
"Mom needs
know.
to lighten up."
I know. But he also knew the word mitochondria, so
Yeah,
we got that going for us.
that's right.
Oh, Kelly, thank you so much for being here. How can people find you, and what would they actually come to find you for?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This has been a really
Yeah.
fun conversation, a big pick me up in the middle of an afternoon here. You can find me anywhere online at 90 Minute School Day. So I'm 90minuteschoolday.com and it's the number 90,
Yeah.
not written out, the number 90. 90minuteschoolday.com is my website. 90 Minute School Day is where you'll find me on Instagram. I have a podcast also, so it's the 90 Minute School Day. And I help parents deschool themselves. So wherever you are on the journey, I have like a really concentrated deschooling program called Guide Training that I offer twice a year that's live coaching in a group container for parents. And then I have a community that's opened a couple of times a year for parents to come and just get everyday support because that's one of the big things we need
Mhm.
as homeschooling parents is community. And we might not have a community that's schooling the way that we're home educating in person. And so this is filling the gap. Most of my clients have neurodivergent kids.
Love that. And thank you for filling that gap. That is oh so needed.
You create what you need yourself. So
That's true.
that's what I
Mhm.
needed.
That is
And
true.
that's what I'm passionate about. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The OT is In. I hope our discussion has provided valuable insights and support for your educational journey. Remember, as parents, it's essential to address our children's diverse learning and developmental needs. And here at Homeschool OT, we asked you, the parents, the most helpful way for us to support you. And the majority of you answered time to ask questions so you can stop being overwhelmed with the noise of all these varying suggestions, some often contradicting themselves. So if you are seeking personalized guidance, Homeschool OT now offers concierge services tailored to your family's unique requirements. You can book 1 session, 4 sessions, 12, 24, whatever. It's all on demand so that you can ask the questions and receive practical strategies heartfelt encouragement to empower your homeschool experience. So to learn more about how Homeschool OT can support you, visit the services page at homeschoolot.com. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to having you with us on the next episode of The OT is In.